This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Always good to be speaking to Adam Smith on the end of a busy week in a sense. It's going to be busier next week, but yeah, how's things, mate? How are you?
All good, thanks, Lewis. Yeah, really good. It's been a quieter week, I guess, from the 2 or 3 weeks before. Um, what with all the build up to Wembley, and then we had the fantastic GBM show in Sheffield the week after. I then went to see Carl Davis, my fighter from Summit, who I'm really excited about, become 8-0 in Nottingham. So a really busy weekend with Sheffield and Nottingham on the back of that huge fantastic week with everyone building up to Wembley Stadium. So yeah, I think it was pretty intense. And this week's been a little bit quieter. Nothing's ever really quiet in the boxing world. And then yeah, I've got some good plans next week. I'm going out to Germany to see Sophie Alish, which I'm really excited about. Sophie has got big news coming soon, and I think at a good time when Sky and Raven are fighting in Riyadh. Obviously, same division. You have Sky and Raven being the first world title fight with the women out in Saudi, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm a massive admirer of both Sky and Raven. I'm particularly close to Raven, who's come on my podcast, the Voice of Boxing podcast. She was on one of my first guests, and yeah, Raven's really cool. I got to work with her in Riyadh actually on radio a few months ago, and we've become pretty close. So very very excited about that fight with Sky, who I think is an incredible fighter and a brilliant spokesperson for boxing, full stop. I think she's terrific. So I'm really liking that fight next week. And for me, Sophie Alish, who's an undefeated young fighter, she's only 22. We're going to get her back rolling. As I said, we've got an important announcement coming in the next few days, and we're looking to get her back out very, very soon. So yeah, out to Germany next week to see how she is in the final parts of her training camp. And yeah, a few bits of other bits and pieces. I like to keep busy. Different companies I'm working for, GBM and Summit and Loungers TV, and yeah, enjoying myself, Lewis, and having a little bit of time with the family. Today I'm with the family, and then tomorrow I'm in Liverpool for Nick Ball, who was great to see at Anfield
Yeah,
during the week. A big race
yeah.
in this house, as I think you know, and great to see Nick with his belts on the pitch before the game the other night, before the Champions League game, and Liverpool on good form. So is Nick, and looking forward to seeing him up in my second home tomorrow night.
Absolutely, for sure. And just before sort of getting into the wider topic of boxing, I did want to touch on that GBM show that just happened. I think a lot of people are really, really happy with it. Obviously on the zone, and there was a lot of credit. It was a really, really big show for yourself. Obviously, some big results coming from that. Shakiel Thompson with a destructive performance against River Wilson Bent. Ryan Walsh almost turning back the clock to stop Reece Molden. Obviously, I think someone that also deserves big credit is Tysie Gallagher beating obviously Tori Ellis Willits, who's and providing sort of quite a strong claim to be a formidable force in the super bantamweight division. So yeah, it was a really, really good show in Sheffield, and Eddie Hearn was also there to see it as well.
I think it was the best yet. It was a great event, a fantastic card. It worked beautifully, dovetailing with Matchroom Show the next night to have the weigh-in and collaborating with all the guys with Ross and with Eddie, and fantastic to see Matty Lawless and the whole team up there. Brilliant to have Eddie and Izzy together. Eddie spoke very highly of Izzy, and I've always said that. I mean, my relationship with Eddie goes way back, and we were particularly close. And when he left Sky, it was very hard for me. And I think I love working with Ben, and Ben is a unique character, and it was great catching up with him the other week. But Izzy, I think for his promotional attributes, his infectious charisma, does remind me a little bit of a young Eddie. And I think he told Eddie that the other night, and they had a bit of a chat at ringside. And I think Eddie was really impressed with what Izzy's done in just 3 or 4 years with Mitch Costello by his side, who deserves a huge amount of credit. Doesn't get it. He's the engine room behind it, really, and a fantastic team with Alex Maver and the guys, and really, really impressive. And I think that GBM's done really well this year. I've been delighted to play a little part in it and help them out with a bit of strategy and some broadcasting advice. We've had a really good run with TalkSport YouTube, and now on to DAZN. Second show on DAZN. Atmosphere was phenomenal. The fights lived up to it. There was a real diverse mix. Izzy adding the knockout bonus, I think, helped. Taz Nadim's knockout was terrific. Ed Hardy, brilliant professional debut. Really enjoyed that. The likes of Kobe McNamara, Jack Bateson getting out again, Maxie Hughes in a cracking fight. And I think the good thing was that all the guys and women on the right side of the bill were really up for it. They'd had long training camps and didn't really, even though they weren't maybe the favourites, they came to win, and they came to win hard. You saw that with Christian, you saw that with the Greek God, you saw that with Tori Ellis, you saw that with all of them, and of course with Ryan Walsh. So, I don't know where to start. Hughie Fury, tough 8-rounder, good hard ring education if he needs any more after having world title fights at the beginning of his career. But I think he does after 3 years out need those tough fights. And I spoke to Peter, and I think Peter would have liked him to use the jab a little bit more, but maybe Hughie's caught a little bit betwixt and between the skillful Hughie and the Hughie that wants to get in and try and provide the knockouts to attract the Saudis. But I think, look, it was a tough, hard, good win for him against Christian, who was really fit, and it was a good opportunity for him. So I'm pleased with that night's work for Hughie. Maxie Hughes, great to have him back in a hard fight, and then the twist in the end when he got the stoppage, which was amazing. Seeing Josh Warrington in the corner as well. Obviously, they had a tough night with Reece Moll, but these things happen in boxing. And Ryan was convinced all week that he still had the legs, and he knew he had the legs because he plays football. And he was like trying to tell me that I just want to make sure it happens in the ring. You never know. And I was speaking to Graham Everett on the day. You're going to come down and just try the ring out, because it's all very well in training, but he hadn't had a big win for 6-7 years, Ryan Walsh, a long time. And although he kept telling me I'm fresh, I've had 30 amateur fights, less than 30 professional fights, I'm still got it, even at 38. He didn't know. And then he got into the ring and he started moving around, and I thought, oh, hello. And as soon as he won, he came up to us and just went like that with the legs and said, I've still got it. And I think I've spoken to him quite a lot this week. He's left me a lot of messages. I think it was one of the great nights of his career for him and his brothers to prove everybody that they train really hard, they live like professionals. And that's the thing that Ryan really loved in what we said, that he is a true professional. He hasn't drunk, he hasn't smoked, he dedicated himself to his craft. And although, yes, he might not have had the momentum, he might have been left out a little bit in Norfolk, but he's proved that he's still a force. And they were calling out Turkey, the three of them. I mean, that'd be a great story over there in Saudi, taking the Cromer massive. And he's promised me lots of lovely ice cream at the shops in Cromer. So how can I turn it? We'll be definitely heading out there at some point to apparently the honeycomb and caramel is the ice cream. So we're going to be joining Ryan. I feel for Reece Moll in front of his fans. Lovely guy, and his family around him, beautiful daughters. They were a real family affair all week, and tough for Reece, but he can come back from that. He's got good people around him, so it happens in boxing. Tysie Gallagher and Tori Ellis, a bit of a mess. Let's be honest, it wasn't a great fight, but it was intriguing all along. And Tysie just got that early lead, and it was really hard for Tori, who I think started to find herself a little bit more as the fight went on. And I think she'll back and probably kick herself that she didn't quite get going early enough. But Tysie proved that the experience, the knowledge, and the class, just got her through. And I think Tysie can go on to fight for a world title again, no doubt. She's a great character. She's got a big support base. Part of that, Tony Pill and Don Charles. I mean, did you see how many people were in the ring before the fight?
Yeah, no,
it was like Daniel Dubois team plus, right? It was amazing. I mean, there must be it's fantastic, and it was great to see. She's wonderful, Tysie. She's a big advocate for ADHD and how it's helped her boxing, and she's a mom, and I think she's great. And we look up to the mums in boxing like Tasha Jonas and how they can juggle it. I think she's another one, and it's great to see. So well done to Tysie. And then, of course, Shakiel Thompson stole the show. He was accurate. He was menacing. He was punch perfect. He was destructive, and River was really up for the fight. And I know, okay, it's not beating a Hamza Shiraz, it's not beating a Chris Eubank, of course. There's a way to go in levels for Shaq. But I think he's one of the best middleweights in the country already. I think he's really dangerous. He's 6'3". He's that spindly sort of almost. My hero is Tommy Hearns, and you can't compare the levels, but in the way he fights, he's tall, he's awkward, he hits hard. He's good on the outside. He's good on the inside. And add to that, he's a southpaw. Plus, he's a lovely guy outside the ring. I just said, and I've said it on camera, I said it on the night, and I'll say it again. He's got to look at the setup of his life. He's working 9 to 5 because he has to put food on the table for the kids. I understand that. He's got 2 young kids. But he can't be now getting up in the morning, doing his training, going to work, getting back, looking after the kids, going to do his training by night. It's exhausting. And
Yeah.
when you're at these sort of levels now, he's undefeated in 13 with 9 knockouts. He's knocking on the door. Within a year, he's going to get some really big fights. So this reminds me of a stage that Josh Warrington was at many years ago when he was about, maybe I don't know, he'll tell you 11, 12, 13, 14, I don't know, I can't remember. But he was working as a dental technician, and the dental people said to him, just go and concentrate on the boxing. We'll have a job for you at the end of this. And I think Shaq's got to have some sort of arrangement like that. He's crying out for sponsorship. I don't know why somebody has not got hold of him. I don't really understand it. But I would appeal to somebody to go and help the Thompson family, because this guy is exactly what a fighter should be about. He's been boxing since he was a kid. He's got plenty of talent. He's got real determination, but he just needs a bit of a break. He needs to be able to focus solely on the boxing. Because if that's what he can do with that sort of balance, imagine what he can do maybe against the best middleweights in Britain and in the world. So I think Shaq deserves that opportunity. He was fantastic. River trained really hard for it. There were no excuses. He was very confident going into it. You know, he thought, oh, I'd seen Shaq in trouble with my mate Bradley Goldsmith in the amateurs. He knew what to do. He worked hard at it. And that was a great win for Shaq Thompson. And now I would like to see him, you know, go in with a Brad Pauls, a Tyler Denny, maybe in the next fight or two. I think that's the right direction for Shaq. I'd like him to fight again, if not this side of Christmas, very early in the new year. And we need momentum. But I think, and I'm appealing out here, Lewis, to anyone out there that can help Shaq, because he's our fighter, and we've got a responsibility to look after him. He's got a wonderful family, but he cannot afford not to work full time, and that is hard if you're trying to be a boxing champion. As you know, as well as I do, that the ones that make it to the top are the ones that dedicate their life and heart to the sport, which Shaq has, but he has to earn more money on the outside. So, yeah, let's hope that he can sort that out. It was a brilliant win for him. But for Izzy and for Mitch, a fantastic show. And it's a show that really sort of cements where GBM are as a very strong promotional force coming forward. That link with Matchroom is great. Love to see that continue under the DAZN umbrella. DAZN must be delighted. I'm seeing Mike Ridout next week, so I'm sure he'll be really pleased with how things are going. And we're just talking sort of behind the scenes about where we go next, and you know, hopefully another one before Christmas. But let's just have a look and take stock. And we like to look back at a show and see where we can improve and go forward. But I think that was a real mark in the sand for us for the first time. If people didn't know how good GBM can be, then with the cards we're given, with the money that we've got, with the production we're putting on, and the fights we're matching, I don't think there's many other promotional companies in Britain that are doing at this level that are doing what we're doing. And I'm really proud of Izzy, Mitch, and the team.
Absolutely, for sure. I'm glad you mentioned Mitch as well. He's obviously someone that deserves a lot of credit that may not always get it. But yeah, don't
always get it. And you know as well as I do, right? I've watched you come through. I've watched Charlie, watch Oscar come through, and you guys work so hard and they're so dedicated. And for me, it's about mixing the passion and the dedication. Mitch Costello was a young boy when he lost his dad. His dad was very close to Naz. He was in the boxing world. He worked with us at Sky. He was a fantastic whip floor manager, but just a brilliant guy for boxing who I was close to. And we tragically lost him through cancer, way too young. I've had my own cancer battle. I know how tough this disease is. And he didn't make it. And it was very sad times. And for an 8-year-old boy to be left just with his mum, and he didn't have any siblings, it's been a hard road for Mitch, but he's done brilliantly. He got a sports science degree at Hallam. He's got into boxing with Dennis, and he's now with Izzy. And I think that, you know, I don't even know, mid-20s, he's young, and he is going to be, he's like Frank Smith. He's going to be a real force in boxing, because he's working all the stuff out behind the scenes, whether it's the budgets, whether it's the technical side, whether it's the administrative side, the production side, the matching side, all of it. And that's what Frank did with Eddie. You know, he came on as a young teenager and he learned the ropes. And look at Frank now. He's one of the most, in my opinion, the most, I wouldn't say powerful, because that's not Frank. He doesn't have that ego. But he's one of the most well-respected, well-loved, and brilliant people in boxing. So communicative, so helpful, so good at what he does. And he's learned it, you know, day by day in a business, rather than sort of going off and doing it somewhere else for many years. He did it in Matchroom, And I think Mitch has done the same sort of thing with Izzy. And people don't hear about him, but they should do. He's one of the main reasons why this is all working.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned Frank Smith as there, because Frank Smith as well, because it brings me on to the next point I did want to move on from. That I spoke to Frank Smith during the week, and a topic that I sort of wanted to get your thoughts on, someone that you've been sort of quite close with for many years, Anthony Joshua. Yeah, a lot have been said about the future for himself, what he should do, what's next for him. Yeah, I guess sort of for yourself, what do you think is next for Anthony Joshua coming off the back of the Dubois fight and everything that's sort of come into that and everything that's fallen out since then?
I swapped messages with Freddie Cunningham yesterday, and it's obviously been a very tough time for them. But Josh is all right, and I've said, look, I reach out to him, I reach out to Freddie. If they ever need a call, they ever need any of my suggestions, then my door's open. They don't need me; they just need to know what they want to do. I remember Josh coming around to my house a few years ago, and he was unbeaten, and he spent some time with the family. He was just in a little bit of a rut. And I remember us talking very openly, and hey, look, that offer's there again. He helped me a lot during my time in hospital. And he was in America training out with Derek James, and he was obviously on that time zone. So when I was late at night having real problems in the hospital, he was someone who kept me going. And look, I've known him a long, long time. Take nothing away from what happened at Wembley. Daniel Dubois is a great guy, wonderful fighter, and it was a phenomenal achievement for him, for Dave, for Don Charles, for Kieran, for the whole team, for Riz Khan. Really, really proud of Daniel. And he's the new young lion, and he deserves it after all the criticism he took. Both of them have been through adversity, actually. And actually, it might seem ironic because they'll probably share a ring again, but Daniel could probably give a lot of advice to Anthony because he's been in similar situations. And I think it is about believing in yourself. And I think Josh wants to fight on. I mean, it was a crushing defeat. There's no hiding that. It was a horrible night for him. And there's a lot of people that I've met, casual fans, going, "Oh, Joshua's finished and he should never fight again. And was he ever good?" I think that's really, really unfair. He's a two-time heavyweight champion. He's changed the face of British boxing, as Eddie said, as Frank said. I don't need to wax lyrical about it. It's obvious. He's sold stadium shows. He's been the poster boy. He's made the reason why so many youngsters who I saw at Box Fest the other week have got into the gyms because of Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. But AJ's done immense amounts for boxing. And I think whatever he decides, however long he wants to fight on for, to have him around the sport and around the community of boxing is always going to be amazing. He's made life-changing money. He's still the same person that I remember from 10, 15 years ago. We had a chat the week of the fight, and he was asking me about my family, about my kids. He's so down to earth. And people that may not think that. They might just think he's this AJ famous person, but he's not. And I think he'll be really struggling with this. I think in the hours afterwards, he'll probably think, oh, it was one of those things, I'll get my revenge. But he probably is really struggling with it because he's a very proud man, and he's a very competitive man. He doesn't like losing at chess or anything, and he wants to win. And I think he's the sort of guy to be back in the gym with Ben. I'm sure it was great in the gym. Ben was shell shocked. Everyone was. It didn't work on the night. Dubois took his jab away. Dubois hurt him. He had his hands down. His feet were stationary. Was that because he was hurt? Was that because he was lost? Was that because he had a bad night? Was that there's all those questions. I think the most important thing is that the people around him that know him best, as in Ben and Barry and the team in Harlow, also Freddie and KD, they're not going to let him go on too long or get him hurt or anything like that. They're going to be very sensible with this. Josh will want to fight again. He'll want to get back in with Dubois, just like he did with Andy Ruiz and Alexander Usyk. Do I think that's the best fight for him? I'm not sure. I think if I was him, I would probably take Eddie's advice, which is wait to see what happens. We're only, 9-10 weeks away from Fury and Usyk. Why don't you just wait? There's no rush. Tick over in the gym, wait to see what that result is and think. And maybe it's worth going straight into the Fury fight because that's still the biggest fight out there, certainly in Britain. And, the time forgives, and within 6 months, people will sort of half forget about what happened, and it will be AJ Fury will be the biggest thing in the world, and you could do 2 of those next year. But he'll want revenge on Dubois. Can he get it? A lot of people I talk to think he can. A lot of people think no chance. So it's a fight that's obviously a possibility out there. But then what will Frank and George want to do with Daniel? That's another way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Are they going to want to give him a nice couple of defenses? Are they going to want to look after him a little bit, get him into really embedded into Riyadh season. Maybe they'll put him in with a, I don't know. There's so many queuing up, aren't they? From Joe Parker to Piccoli to Zhang. Some of Piccoli's going to fight one of these guys. There's lots in the mix there. Moses Atauma's coming through pretty quickly as well on the scene. And then there's the likes of Derek Chisora or Joe Joyce coming in. There's other heavyweights out there. So Dubois could fight anyone. He'll probably want to fight Usyk rather than Joshua because he felt wrong that night. So I think if I was all of them, Daniel's out in Brazil, relaxing, good for him. If I was AJ, I would just take stock, do his sponsorship commitments, get back in the gym, tick over, go and have a bit of fun, go on holiday, go to see the Fury Usyk fight, be around it, and don't make any hasty decisions. That would be my advice if he calls me up. But I think that they're very sensible around him, and I think they'll. I mean, he's the boss. And if he wants to fight Dubois and they can get that over the line, then that's what will happen. I just think that for both of them, it might not be the right fight straight away. And because it was one-sided, yes, he had the flurry in the fifth, but because it was so one-sided, a bit like Khan Brook, we wanted a rematch, okay, if it was good. But it was so one-sided. Poor Amir, he was brave, but he wasn't there. And Kell won easily, a bit like Daniel. The calling for a rematch wasn't as... it's different. It's the heavyweights. But I would say both of them just take a little bit of time to reflect. There's no rush. They made a lot of money from that fight. They'll make a lot of money from the next fight. Just get it right. With AJ, he's got to get it right now. He can't afford another defeat like that, or that is probably over. So they have to get this decision right. Take your time. That's what I would say. Take your time. Let's look at Fury and Usyk. Let's see what happens in that one. 2025 is a big year. We all want to see AJ Fury still before they finish. We didn't get the Wilder stuff. We didn't get so many fights in history. Lewis Bowe, Hatton Witter, Mayweather, Pacquiao way too late. Khan Brook too late. Probably Fury AJ too late. But let's try and get it. Zaggy and Fox we never got. So I would say. We're all impulsive, aren't we, Lewis, in the boxing world? We all want things to happen tomorrow. We all want to know what is happening now. Let's just take a breath. It was an amazing event. Both of them played their part in it. It wasn't just Daniel. They both played their part in it. 95,000 people went there to see AJ, and they all left pretty quickly. Okay? That was a bit of a significant. And that was AJ's home. Daniel Dubois, amazing. Let's give the praise to Daniel rather than just keep focusing on AJ.
Of course, absolutely.
He's 27. He's the heavyweight champion we can be proud of. And a huge congratulations to Frank, to George, to Francis, to those who believed in him all the way through. They didn't give up on him. He was the Young Boxer of the Year many years ago. And I remember sitting next to him at a dinner, and Frank said to me, "This guy is going to get through. He's going to be the best." And it's taken time. But he's learned and learned and learned. Those that have stuck around him, I'm thrilled for Don and Kieran and the guys. And for Ben, it's a disappointment. He's had lots of triumphs, Ben Davison. He's got we get the odd defeat, don't we? We get the odd tough time. And I think that it's the making of you. And he'll come back and they'll want to right the wrong. But I'm not sure that's the most urgent thing to do at the moment. Bit of chill out time. That's my advice.
I think that's definitely a good one. I think a lot of people would agree with you there. And just quickly moving on before I do let you go. One fight I did want to touch on, focus attention to next week. I think that the consensus is purest best fight in boxing. The two Russians, Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, face off in Riyadh. A little bit later than we expected, obviously with the injury to Beterbiev, sort of pushing this fight back, but only anticipates it even more for just a mouth-watering fight. I think I spoke to you a few months ago. You said, you feel like you got the edge towards Bivol. Is that still edge there as we're there about a week before the fight?
It is, Lewis. I put my neck on the line. I think it was in America a good few weeks ago about Dmitry Bivol, and now it seems like quite a lot of people are coming out and saying that they think Dmitry Bivol as well. Most people I spoke to beforehand were all going for Beterbiev, and I thought I went out on a bit of a limb with Dmitry, but I've always liked Bivol in this fight, so I'm not going to change now. I think that Beterbiev is a wonderful, wonderful fighter. He was a brilliant amateur, and he was, you ask Callum Smith, who's hard as nails in the ring. He punches extremely hard. He cuts angles really well, and he'll hunt you down. And he could win this fight. Of course he could. And he could win it at any time. But I just think Dmitry is. I love boxing geniuses. I love intelligence in the boxing ring. Whether you're a Vasyl Lomachenko type fighter or a Floyd Mayweather, I just love when you can, or Usyk, when you can just read a fight so well. And for me, and I go back to what I said about Ryan Walsh earlier, for me, boxing is so much about the feet. Everyone focuses on this. And of course, you need your hands up at all times and you need the power to deliver the punches. But it's a dance, it's a ballet. Boxing is about foot movement. Look at how acrobatic people are, like Nassim Hamid was, like Usyk was, how good Calzaghe was on his feet. They legs and feet are great. I went to see, again, another complete level, but same sort of division, Carl Davis the other night in Nottingham, and he's been riding horses since he was a kid. And so his legs are really incredibly strong. And I watched his legs on Saturday night in Nottingham on the small dinner show, and it was brilliant because he's getting his legs into the right positions. There's a long way to go. He's a young kid.
Yeah.
And I'm around them. Raldo, with Sophie, with Carl, I'm around young kids who are just at the start of their careers. But you look at Dmitry, and I just think that he's proved time and time again, not just against Canelo. And yeah, he probably had, I know you're going to talk to Craig Richards at some point, because he's been sparring with Beterbiev and he's fought Bivol, so he's perfect guy to talk to. I thought Craig did really well against Bivol, and Bivol didn't have a great night. But I think you look at Dmitry over the course of his amateur and professional career, his feet are unbelievable. His defense is excellent. He's got very, very few weaknesses, if any. He hits harder than people think. He's got a lovely jab. I think if he gets into a rhythm, it could be a really solid night work for him. I think if Beterbiev gets him out of that rhythm, it gets interesting. But I still think on his feet, he's the better boxer. My pick is Bivol on points. I saw Chris Eubank Jr., who knows the business. He knows the business very well, doesn't he? He knows. Well, I'm not saying anything because I love Frank and Eddie and Ben and Haller and everybody of that. So I'm not saying I agree with any of what he said because I'm not a fighter and it's up to him what he says. But it was the right platform to say what he said. But anyway, he'll say what he says, and as Ben Shalom says, he can't stop Chris Eubank. What I do think about Chris is I like him very much. I think he's very intelligent, and I've seen what he said about the upset, and he thinks it'll be an upset if Dmitry Bivol loses on Saturday. And I've just seen that they had a thing. I don't know what it was on. It was on Insta. I saw when a few of the fighters were predicting what would be the upset of the night, and Sky said, "Oh, if Raven beats me, it'll be an upset, but it's not going to happen." Yeah. And Raven goes, "I might beat Sky," and somebody else said, I think Ben Whittaker said, maybe Raven Chapman, and Chris Eubank was asked, and he said of the bill, he thinks if Dmitry Bivol loses, it will be an upset. And I think Bivol wins, but I think it will be a really fight. I think it'll be one for the connoisseurs. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going out to Riyadh. I've got a few things on next week. I'm going to Germany to see Sophie Alish. I've got a few other bits and pieces, so I'm not going out there this time, but I will be watching, obviously, next Saturday night. And I do think that I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Fraser and Fabio going at it again. Will it be round 13? Will it be very different? Can they go to the well like that again? Is it going to be half as good a fight? I mean, the crowd and everything at the O2. It's going to be different in Riyadh. It's going to be a little calmer. I still think they'll go at each other. I think that they'll have a lot of pride on the line there. So I hope it's going to be another cracker. Really looking forward to seeing Ben Whittaker again, one of my favourite fighters in fight number 9 for him. Liam Cameron, an amazing story. One of the great stories is to make a film about him. I'm so proud of Liam, just incredible for where he's been. I think Jack Massey is just one of the most underrated fighters and underappreciated fighters we have. He's a great guy. He did brilliantly at Crystal Palace against Isaac. He deserves his opportunity. I do think Jai Pattaya is one of the pound-for-pound kings. So obviously I think Jai will come through that. But Jack has his place there, definitely. And I can't wait for the women's fight. For me, that is the pick because I'm a massive admirer of both of them. They're both undefeated, and it's a great advert for women's boxing, which is one of my biggest passions. So, good luck to Sky, good luck to Raven. I hope it's a cracking fight, and they do it again. Before they do that, you add Karis into the mix. Then, at some point, and she's much younger, Sophie, like Sky's 29, they're late 20s. Sophie's not even 23 until November.
I didn't even realise that. I didn't know I didn't know how young Sophie was. Yeah,
for a long time. She's only 23 in November, so she'll fight before when she's still 22, and we're going to get the momentum going again, Lewis, with Sophie, and with a 500,000 following plus, and with a fantastic all-round qualities outside of the ring and her linguistic skills and how she is. You know what she's like. She's a great woman, and she can fight for fun. So she's coming after those girls, and I've told Raven, and I've said to Raven, if you go out and win that, look, we're coming for you next year. But yeah, no, Raven's a mate of mine, and my heart will be with her. My head, I don't know. It's a tough fight. Maybe over 10-3s. I'd fancy Raven a bit more. Maybe over 10-2 Sky. It's a tough fight. It's a good fight, and they're both great women for the sport. And I think that's the best. They're both such lovely women. They're fantastic fighters, and the more the merrier with this. It was all very difficult with Sandy and Michaela the other night. Two women I have massive respect for. The whole sort of paint incident and all of that difficulties. And I'm close to Brian Peters. He's got up to Sandy's. That's all difficult. But I commentated with Michaela, and it's just that's a hard situation. It was a great fight, and I think you concentrate on what's happening in the ring. You've got the likes of Ellie Scotney. You've got Terry Harper. Oh my word, what a win for Terry!
Yeah.
Terry from the fish and chip place to, what is it now, 3 weights? I mean, she's unbelievable, Terry Harper. I'm so pleased. That's another really pleased for Steffi Bull. Really pleased. What a great guy. Just fantastic. Big advocate for women's boxing. What he's done with Terry Harper. Amazing. So some fantastic women's fights coming up. Some great men's fights coming up. Not just that. We've got Nick Ball this weekend, which I'm really looking forward to being up involved in. We've got obviously Jack Cattrall, Regis Prograis back out of the country. You just announced the Sonny Edwards and Yafai fight.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, like obviously, I know
wonderful fight. I was the one that got away from us at Sky. We managed to get everyone else.
Yeah.
We got Fraser, we got Caroline, we got the girls, we got Lauren and Karis, which is the big thing for me. We got Ben Whittaker. We didn't get Yafai. He made the right decision. He went with his brothers to Matchroom. I think he's a really exciting fighter. But I love Sonny Edwards. I think he's just he's electric. He's dynamite. He's Marmite. He's just the character the boxing needs. I think he's I don't know. Is it the young? It's a fantastic fight. I love it, and it's a really difficult one for me because I think Kyle might be fighting on November the 30th in Nottingham again. We're hoping. We're just looking at it at the moment, but if he does, then it will be very difficult because it's in Birmingham, and I don't know if there's any way I can try and get to it. It's not that far, but I don't want to miss that fight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So but obviously I put my guy first. So it's a great fight.
Yeah, one thing just before I do actually let you go, one thing on Sonny Galal. Like, I don't know if you, obviously I know you spent a lot of time at GB. I don't know if you've ever watched them spar, but I spoke to Josh Padley, and he messaged me and he said, like, I've watched them spar, and I think he said the last time they sparred was just before Galal went into the Olympics or before his pro debut. And he said to me, he said, if that spar that you watched was anything like the fight, we're in for a massive treat on November 30th.
I think it's a great match to make. Eddie keeps doing it. He's doing it in the States. He's doing it in Britain. And Eddie's had a tough time with AJ and everything. It's not been easy and the 5v5. But Eddie just keeps on putting out these cracking fights and big nights. And look, that's what Izzy and GBM are looking up to. What Frank's done. Frank's had a fantastic rosy period, hasn't he? I mean, it's amazing what he's. Hamza Shiraz is someone we haven't mentioned. I mean, okay, Shaq is our fighter, but Hamza Shiraz, what a special talent. Going to become a world champion, and what a great role model for kids and for boxing. So there's so many of them out there. The ones holding the titles this weekend. So much respect out there this week. You're not going to get much on fight week, to be honest, Adam. Apart from just really great nights boxing. And well done to Ben for getting in there, as well as Eddie and Frank. And it's wonderful what Turkey's done and putting this umbrella of promoters together and putting another fantastic card on. You've got that. You've got November then with Chris Phillips-Smith one, and then obviously December 21st. So much going on in Riyadh. But you look at the shows that Frank's got here, and George and Box Nation. You look at the Matchroom shows. You look at Wasserman. I know we're in Bolton on the 25th, I think, of the month.
Yeah, it is.
Bolton, then I'm the next day. We've got Naraldo coming back in November. It's non-stop. And of course, you add to that top tier and Steve Goodwin and Steve Wood and all the other smaller hall promoters on the circuit. It's brilliant. British boxing is buzzing. And I think that we really saw that at GBM last week. I think we really saw that there is an appetite for a bed, a foundation for young fighters to grow from before they get to that stage, and then a Josh Bradley can take it. And there's no reason why
Yeah.
a Shaq Thompson or Ryan Walsh, even at his stage of his career, or it's maybe a Kieran Malloy, I don't know, Tiernan Bradley, somebody is going to get that call at some point in the next 12 months to be on that stage, and then you're going to see Izzy up there. So
Mhm.
I think it's brilliant to have all the promoters. I'm very fond of Kala and Nisse as well, and it'd be good to work together with them again, hopefully. And it's just I really love the way it's gone because it was so acrimonious for so many years
Yeah.
and fights didn't get made. Okay, money and ambition and everything changes, but what the Saudis have done, they've come here, they've gone to America, and they've just put on amazing, fantastic shows for the fight fans, and we've got to be, as fans, you and I, and as people who work in the media, we've got to be incredibly grateful for what's happening. And who knows how long it'll last, whether it's 2 years, 10 years, who knows? But yeah,
So yeah, just picking this back up because the meeting ran out on us because we were talking so much. But yeah, you previously mentioned sort of about everyone working together now and how acrimonious it was, and it must be, as you say, amazing to see how close everyone is now together.
it's bizarre, Lewis. It really is. I mean, we've been through all the promoters at Sky over the years, and everyone's got their strengths, and there's been a lot of great fun and yeah, ups and downs, I guess, with everybody as a broadcaster or as with Sky Sports. There's certain things you want out of promoters, certain things they want out of you, and it's a partnership. And I think I worked very closely with Frank for many years, very closely with Mick and with others, with Ricky, with Frank, now Kelly Maloney, lots of different people over the years. But obviously Frank and Eddie were the two main ones, and then Ben in the sort of final time. And I just, Frank was the original, or before him was Mickey Duff, but he was the sort of original promoter when we started. And then Eddie was seen as Barry was obviously promoting with Matchroom, but he had other things. He had snooker and darts and various other sort of interests. So, but Frank was purely boxing. Then when Eddie came in, it was like, who is this sort of young upstart? And Frank and Eddie just never, slightly a generational thing, but they never saw eye to eye. And there was a lot of dislike for each other, and neither of them would go out of their way to see each other. They didn't want to speak. There was a lot of hate. And so when I came out of my illness and went to the press conference, and Turkey Al Sheikh had got them together, and they were standing there on the same stage, was odd enough. But now to know that they're having dinners and it's amazing in many ways. It's brilliant. But the most important thing I always think of is for the fighters, that they get looked after, they get paid. They're the ones that we're all doing this for. They're the most important ones. And the second is the fans, because the fans pay their hard-earned money to watch boxing. And so for the fighters and fans, what's happening in this new era over the last year with Riyadh season is they've turned boxing on its head. They're great fights being made, and fighters are getting paid huge amounts of money, and fans are loving it. So it's got to be brilliant, right? And the fact that they've got all the promoters working together, it's a bit strange, like having everyone around the dinner table. It's a bit like the odd night we got, like the Boxing Writers Club night every year, when everyone came in and almost like the knives were put down or the pens were put down, and everyone had a sort of social. And then the next morning, everyone would go back to their own agendas and trying to sort of beat up the other promoters or whatever. Now there's everyone sort of working together, even with us, with Izzy and Eddie. It's really good, and I think that promoters can help each other out. Cal and Nisse have been brilliant at that. They've been the Geneva peacemakers, haven't they, at times, pulling
Yeah, of
people
course.
together with everybody in boxing. And now to see everyone sort of up there and Ben getting in, which is great. I'm really pleased for him. The Marcel Piccoli thing was a big win for him, and he's almost got the majority of this card next week. So everyone in there together is great for boxing. Of course, there are still going to be their moments where it's their own business,
Yeah.
their own company, their own pride, their own egos. Eddie wants to be the best. Frank wants to be the best. There's still that. But I think coming together for these big occasions 4 or 5 times a year, a bit like the pay-per-view fights, but doing it together is great. And I think Spencer Brown is pivotal in this as well, because he's very close to Turkey. As Tyson Fury's right-hand man, who's got in there, and he's sort of made sure they'd knocked heads together. And two other very important people, and I always shout them out, are George Warren and Frank Smith. They don't get the attention. People don't see George up on the dais. He doesn't want that. That's not him. And Frank, the same, is just happy to do the odd interview and the odd head-to-head when Eddie's not around. But he knows what his business is. And they're the ones that deserve immense amount of credit for doing what Turkey and the Seller team have asked them to do, which is make the big fights, get the promoters all together. But to get Eddie and Frank actually doing that was up to the others, I think. But now they are. And I've always said it. Like Eddie and Frank will get on absolutely brilliantly. And, they are different generations, but they love boxing. They love competitiveness. They're passionate. They both believe in their fighters. And yeah, they've got their own stable, but they've got a huge amount of interest together. So yeah, it's meeting your rivals, and you can learn off your rivals too and get even better. And I like the 5v5 as a bit of sort of friendly, but there's some spice to it as well. Those sort of competitions are good. And I think that we're onto a fantastic thing, and there's lots of fights that can be made. Be interesting when the AJ Fury sort of era moves on and what happens next. But I think with these competitions and the different ways of sort of making events attractive to the fans, I think we've got a really rosy future. It is important, as Eddie and Frank know, though, that the York Hall shows and that our GBM shows and all the rest of it go on back here. And there are the big fights like the Edwards and Yafai fight we were talking about, or like Catron and Promay, that we get the arenas filled in Britain. That's still really important. But I think Seller know that. I think the Riyadh season guys know that by coming to America and to Britain. But now it's time to go to Riyadh because it's Riyadh season. We open with Bivol and Beterbiev. There's the PFL the week after with Francis and Garnu. You've got the Crispin and Smith night, and then you've got the Fury and Usyk rematch at the end of the year. So we've got lots of things happening in Riyadh, but also lots of things happening in Britain and lots of things happening in America, and just another one announced yesterday in Puerto Rico. So it's great worldwide, I think, at the moment. And for me, when I see the young fighters, the young boxers who are, I don't know, between 10 and 18, who are at these box fests, who are queuing up for AJ's autograph, waiting for Hamza Shiraz or whatever, they're the ones that they're thinking, oh my gosh, and they're looking up. And the women especially, who are looking up to the likes of your Katies and your Tashas, and now the next generations, your Lauren Prices. And I think it's brilliant that they have that ability. I can say to my 13-year-old daughter, go down to the boxing gym, and she's like, yeah, but why do I have to go and do that? And it's like, well, go down there and see. And then, I don't know, maybe show her a Katie Taylor fight, or maybe show her what Tysie's doing now. She conquered her ADHD by going out and saying, right, I can use my ADHD in a powerful way by going to boxing. It doesn't have to hold me back. That's really given her a lot of hope. So I can say to my kids, look up at what they do. My kids might not want to be boxers, but there are plenty out there that do, and there are plenty out there that want to go into gyms and keep themselves fit and dedicated and out of trouble and off the streets, which is great. So I think that all of this is an inspiration to the young coming through. So long may the big fights happen, the promoters working together, still having that competition, which I think is healthy, the grassroots after, the odd huge fight in Britain, and the young kids coming through the gyms. I like nothing more than to go down to a local gym, an amateur club or a professional gym, and see fighters. I'm going to go and do it next week down in South London and just go and have a look and see who's out there. Not just the ones I'm looking after, but the ones that are coming through that people aren't talking about or haven't talked about yet. That's why I like the likes of Sophie and Kyle and Araldo, who people are like, well, who are they? Well, wait a sec. Who was Daniel Dubois a few years ago? Now he's heavyweight champion of the world, and who was Alexander Usyk? Oh, he was just some really talented amateur. Now look what he's done: conquered the cruiserweight division, become undisputed, and the best fighter to lace a pair of gloves on. I don't know how long, right? You've got these heroes that are being made, and I think what's great is that the kids are seeing that they can have their dreams come true, and particularly the girls that become young women who know that they can do anything that the men can do. And Raven and Sky have got a huge amount of pressure on their shoulders to have a great fight week next week, put on a fantastic show, and prove and flag in the sand, a bit like we did with GBM last week, to say, hey, GBM are in business here. A flag in the sand next week out in Riyadh to say, us women are every bit if not better, than the men. And we can put on fantastic fights. And we deserve the best pay, and we deserve, because we are dedicated and passionate, and we're inspiring a next generation. So I think we're in a really good place, Lewis. And I think that this autumn, although it's cold outside, and it's not quite the summer we had, and the shorts had to go away, unfortunately. But now we've got all and I can't think of a better, more exciting period or a busier period for all of us in the next 10, 11 weeks. And 22nd of December, when we know who's won that Usyk Fury fight, we're all going to need a nice Christmas dinner and a bit of rest, aren't we?
Absolutely, that's for sure. And yeah, it seems a right time to end the interview. Adam, as always, a real pleasure to be speaking to you. As always, I'm really appreciative of your time. And yeah, enjoy the weekend, enjoy sort of all what happens, because it's definitely going to be a really busy period from now until the end of the year.
Cheers, Lewis. Have a great weekend. Always good speaking to you.
Thank you, mate. Top man. Thank you.